Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. First of all, I'm going to share my screen because we prepared a little presentation. Welcome in our webinar about recruiting on TikTok. We're really happy to share some first insights of our experiments, which we did in 2021. I also want to wish you a really happy and joyful 2022. It's the first webinar that we're doing this year. And
one of many.
Yes, indeed, indeed. First of all, let us introduce ourselves. So my name is Stephanie. I'm the marketing lead at Simple, and next to me stands Mark. He's one of the founders. And we're really happy to share our knowledge about recruiting on TikTok. First of all, can everyone hear and see as well? Can everyone see the slides well so that everything is working okay?
Well, we have lots of comments coming in, so I'm assuming yes, lots of yes, and works fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Seems we're in business. Stephanie.
All right, cool. Now, what is on the agenda for today? Why should you recruit on TikTok? Why should you start recruiting on TikTok? We are going to tell you something more about some marketing basics, because before you can set up your campaign, there is some technical setup which you need to do first. We want to share some experiments with you, which we already did on TikTok. And then last but not least, how do you set up a campaign on TikTok with some learnings from Simple. Let's be very clear. We're talking about paid recruitment on TikTok. We're not talking about free organic recruiting on TikTok. We're not talking about data-driven recruitment. We've done another webinar about that. Also for recruiting on Facebook and Instagram, we've done another webinar about that. But you can find the recordings in our academy. Maybe
Yes.
Mark, you can share.
I'll share a link.
Yes. Perfectly. So there you can register for free, and then you have access to all our resources, which we've written, which we've done in the past. Now, what do we do at Simple? Really quickly, we provide qualified candidates, and we focus on passive candidates. I will explain that a bit more later. And we do this via very targeted advertising on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and now also TikTok. And we do this in a user-friendly process. We've built a software, which we come back to it later in the webinar. Here are some proven results. We analyzed lots of data points per month, 11 million, which is a lot.
That was even without TikTok.
Yes, indeed. Maybe it's even more now. And here you can find some of our customers. But let's start because why should you recruit on TikTok? Maybe it's a good way right now to launch a poll, because
Yes.
I'm really curious if anyone in the audience already done some recruitment campaigns, paid recruitment campaigns on TikTok.
So you should see the poll on the right-hand side where we publish it, and you can just click yes or no. And let's have a look at the first results. Okay, well, that's 98% of people have not yet done recruiting on TikTok.
Okay.
Good.
Interesting.
If I can just interrupt, maybe just to explain that I'm here to answer any questions. Also, my role is here to look at questions coming in. Most of them will be answered by Stephanie, but there's a questions tab on the bottom right. Please, if you have any questions, ask them, because we want to make this as interactive as possible. And you want to keep me busy also, otherwise I just start interrupting Stephanie's presentation. Good.
All right. First of all, I want to share some numbers with you guys. So these are worldwide numbers. So there are 689 million monthly active users. There are more than 1 billion users, but these are active users. TikTok is available in 200 countries. You should also know if there's someone from China, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, or Bangladesh, TikTok is unfortunately banned in that country. So you can't do recruitment advertising over there.
It's also one of the few countries where we don't have participants in this webinar today, because you're from all over the world. So
yes, indeed. And one video can get over 1 billion video views per day, which is, of course, a lot. Now I hear you, and I know you might think like, but TikTok is for youngsters, for young people. Well, actually not, because the worldwide numbers say that only 47% of the total users are aged between 10 and 29, which means that more of half of the people of the active users on TikTok are older than 29 years old. This was for us also really shocking news,
Exactly.
but it's an interesting number, I must
You would
say.
say, Stephanie, that people as of the age of 30 are old?
Thanks, Mark.
No, it's a question I'm asking.
I said older, not old.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay.
All right. Now, why should you start recruiting? I know there are lots of people, users on TikTok, but there is another argument why you should start, and that is that you can find the passive job seekers over there. We know that 20% of the population is actively looking for a job. They're looking on job boards, they're looking on LinkedIn, on Google, but 80% is not actively looking for a job. And you have to reach them where they are every single day. And they are every single day on Facebook, Instagram, but also on TikTok. That's why you should start recruiting on TikTok, because the passive job seekers are very interesting to reach for your vacancy.
Can I just interrupt one
Yes.
second? Because Jan Hollebeke mentions, when you mentioned about the 47% being older than 29, he said, or they are younger than 10. Interesting point, Jan. It's not, I mean, you're right, but you're not right, in the sense that the minimum age that is being checked by TikTok is 10. So they're assuming that people who are younger than 10, they fall into the 10 age bracket. So they don't record ages below that. So I think, I mean, you're right, it looks a bit skewed that way, but basically 53% of people in TikTok are older than 29, which again is old for some people and less old for others. Good.
All right.
But again, thanks for those questions, comments, please.
Yes.
Have them come in, because that allows us to be very interactive.
Indeed, indeed. All right. Now, before you can actually set up your campaign, there are some basics, some marketing basics that you need to know before you can actually set up the campaign. There are also some technical setup that is needed. First of all, I want to share with you the funnel. You have the recruitment funnel. So once a person applies for your vacancy, then there is a selection process, which is different in every company. And then hopefully you come to a hire. These are all the steps that a person takes to come to the hire. But before the recruitment funnel, you have the marketing funnel. And the marketing funnel is important because you want people to get on your vacancy, and you have to attract them. This is in the attract phase, but in the discover phase, you can show a general advertisement, you can show a blog, you can show a topic about your vacancy, but not your specific vacancy. For example, if you're looking for someone in construction, then you're going to show something about construction, but not your specific vacancy yet. It's to build audiences. In the engage phase, you will write a bit more about, are you looking for a new opportunity, but not the specific vacancy yet. It's only in the attract phase that you show your advertisement for your specific vacancy, for your specific company. Why is this so important to know? Well, you need to have a visualization of all the steps so you know where something goes wrong, because you pay for it. You do paid recruitment campaigns, and you want to know in which step that you have to optimize to get the most applications, to get the most qualitative applications. Now, how do you measure all these steps? There comes the TikTok pixel, and the TikTok pixel is actually a piece of code that you have to install on your website. Otherwise, you can't run TikTok campaigns. Well, you can, but nothing will be tracked. So this is really important before you actually start running campaigns. Why is this so important? Well, first of all, to track conversions, because TikTok wants to know when a conversion, when an application has taken place. This is important information to optimize the TikTok campaign itself. And then the second one is to build audiences. Now, I must say, these are early days for TikTok. For TikTok advertising, yeah. Yes. It's the TikTok pixel is not yet as advanced as the Facebook pixel or the LinkedIn pixel. So they're still working on it. You see that they take the know-how from other advertising platforms. So do we. We try to use our know-how from Facebook and from Instagram to make TikTok recruitment campaigns. But yeah, we must say that there is still some work also on the TikTok side itself.
Yeah. I mean, if you can add before you go to the next
Yeah.
slide, and it's also something we say when we present about the Facebook approach. You can't do anything wrong by installing a TikTok Pixel already today. Even if you're only planning to start recruiting in a couple of months, the quicker you install this Pixel, the quicker you start collecting data, the more data you will have once you start building your actual campaigns. I'm running ahead maybe, but you'll notice that the more data you have, that will really define the success of your campaign. So I know for some companies, installing a Pixel might take a couple of weeks because you need to get approval, the IT needs to get involved. So I think that's one of the tips for today. Start looking at how you can integrate your Pixel on your pages.
Indeed. Okay, now
I just want to make sure you have some time to breathe.
yeah,
That's why
to drink something.
to drink.
Thanks. Now, I just want to share another poll because I'm really curious about what do you think that the cost per application is on TikTok, the average cost, let's say. Let's launch the poll to see.
And maybe with application, we mean people actually applying to your vacancy, right? Because we'll talk about that a bit more in detail.
Yes.
Okay, so the biggest chunk of people think it's very cheap, between 1 and 1 and 10 and 11 and 20. I think that's where the biggest chunk goes. I think for next time when we give this, we should also ask people normally pay per application as a reference. But okay, so I think there's enough votes now. So the biggest chunk is 1 to 10, and the other one is 11 to 20.
Okay, that is really cheap.
That is very cheap.
Yeah, that is very cheap. But we want to share some.
Please tell us how you do that.
Yeah. We want to share some experiments which we've done in 2021 with TikTok recruitment campaigns. I'm also going to.
So can I just
yes.
because I just noticed that there were some questions in the chat. Stupid question. Well, that's what Dave is calling it a stupid question. I'm not calling it.
Okay.
Sorry, just to kind of make sure there's no misunderstanding there. I think it's a great question, Dave, to make it clear. What about the Pixel and all privacy issues with TikTok?
Yes.
Let's give a relatively short answer.
Yes. Okay. So if you install the TikTok Pixel on your website, it's totally GDPR approved, but you have to mention it on your privacy policy of your website.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah. It will also depend a bit, now we're getting very complicated on how you set up your application.
Yeah.
But I think what's very important is that you make it very clear that people have to basically approve that the Pixel is used. Okay, and then Simon, Simon is making a comment. Maybe people are thinking of CPC, which is cost per click. That's a
Nice
good point,
one.
Simon. Nice one indeed.
I hope so.
So cost per click, for those people who are not yet aware, means when people are on TikTok, if they click and they come onto your webpage, and how much you pay for that, that's what's called a cost per click. That's actually lower, Simon. We'll come back to that in a second. By the way, if you're interested in everything which we're talking about, which is cost per click, impressions, cost per application, please register in our academy. There's a very good webinar about data-driven recruitment. There's also a good white paper there, which explains everything about this in detail. And if you're serious about recruiting online through social media, that's really something I think you should read, which again is also free, because again, that's the kind of people we are, giving fantastic content away for free. That's all Stephanie's idea. I was against it from the start.
There you see the difference between you and me.
Yes, exactly.
All right. It's the first time that we're going to share some videos with music on it. So I hope everything goes well and that you can hear them. If not, it's not that critical to see or to hear, but it's nicer if you can hear it with volume. Let's see.
Yeah, to all my ladies who got a brother that doesn't treat them right.
body, I'm too fly. So this was the first recruitment ad that we launched on our TikTok account. It was for a boutique agency, and they were looking for promo girls and promo boys. And we did some experiments with it. I'm going to share them later, but I just want to share the results because we were really impressed by the results. So first of all, let me explain the difference between a lead and an application. So what we saw is that, I will come back to that later, but what we saw is if you use lead generation ads on TikTok, that it works better than just traffic ads, where you send people, when they click on your ad, they come to your landing page, to your vacancy. But with lead generation ads, they click on your advertisement, they fill in a form on TikTok itself. It's just first name, last name, and email. And then we've sent them an email with the application form to actually apply for boutique agency. So this is a difference between those two. And this is important to know because there were 41 people that left their email address on the form itself after they saw the advertisement. And then after those 41 people, we've sent them an email, and there 18 people applied. And the cost per application, so the cost per application was 10 euros. Now you see that there is a loss between the leads and the actual applications. This is always the case with lead generation ads. We've did it with Facebook and Instagram as well, and we always see a loss because filling in a form is not a
barrier.
Yeah, it's not really a barrier, but really fill in an application form with lots of questions about your previous job experience, your degrees, etc. That really means that you're in the selection process.
Yeah. We'll come back to that in a second because I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Maybe just to run ahead. I mean, there's several different ways to basically use advertising on TikTok, because that may be not always clear if you have never advertised online or on social media. There's different formats, different approaches, and we'll take you through those later on in the presentation. Mm-hmm. Maybe just to reply to a question from Solène, who's asking whether acquisition means applicant or hired. It means applicant, very clearly. If it would be a cost per hired person, then we really need to charge more to our clients if we can do that for 10 euros. So it's applicants.
Yes, but we did ask boutique agency because it's the client that approves them or takes them in the selection process. Yeah. And 86% of the applicants were actually on track. So they were actually, they could be the promo girl or boy which they searched for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very important because that's also something new we are tracking in our software, where we know what is approved, who is approved to the second stage. Good. There's a question from Kelly, but Kelly, we're going to park that. We'll just show some other examples. I'm going to come back to a question in 5 minutes.
Okay. So what we thought, and maybe you're thinking the same, is these are students that we were looking for. So we thought, maybe it's just good luck that we had that many applicants, but we did it with contact tracers as well, which is the second video. Unfortunately, it's in Flemish, but we're doing the experiments now in Belgium. We're based in Antwerp, so maybe if there are Flemish people, they can read it. If not, you can always see.
And obviously, Antwerp is the center of the world, as
yes,
many people know.
Indeed. All right. So here we were looking for contact tracers for Call Excel, which is an agency. And these are the results. So we had 42 leads, which we were really happy with, but only 9 people applied. But the cost was only 4 euros for one applicant. So although there was a really big conversion loss between the leads and the applicants, the cost per applicant was still really cheap. Okay. All right, then one more example to show you. Here we were looking for an events coordinator for IMEC. here are the results. You see that the cost per application is a bit higher. So I just want to point out as well, like you already said, between 0 and 10 euros and between 11 and 20 euros, it can be higher. I mean, it all depends on if your target audience is available on TikTok, if you have a good audience to target them, if you had good visuals, etc. Like we already said, we're in the beginning of TikTok recruitment, and we're doing lots of experiments to see which one, what is working best. But sometimes, yeah, the cost per application is higher than we expected. But then again, 26 euro is not that bad as well.
No, I think, well, maybe it's just because there's a lot of questions coming in. So
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. I'm coming back to the question of Kelly, which is basically asking, is this only used, can you also use TikTok for senior profiles, investment managers, finance managers, and COOs? It's okay if I answer that, because it's a question we also get, when we do the webinars or when we share our learnings and from Facebook and other social media. I think you can almost find any profile on these channels, including TikTok. But what we noticed is that from a certain seniority level, and I would include investment managers and finance managers into that, CEOs, these are people who are expecting to get a call from a headhunter, right? Those people will not click. I'll maybe give you another example. We had a client who was looking for a lawyer, right? 4 or 5 years experience. We used Facebook for that successfully. We found a lawyer. That same client then asked us to find a senior corporate lawyer. We did think that was going to be tricky, but the client wanted to position themselves as being in touch with today's channels, which I fully appreciate, but that was a bridge too far. I think what we notice is the moment people are getting used to getting a call from a headhunter, they will not click on an ad, also for confidentiality, etc., reasons. But anything kind of below that, middle management, even if it's niche functions like R&D engineer, we've all done those. Not on TikTok, because for us TikTok is only kind of a couple of weeks that we're now active. But we actually also are doing some tests and tryouts on that. Now let's look. So it's not, going back to a question from Divya, it's not only for entry-level positions at all. Because the function you see now, this events coordinator, this was an experienced, there was functional experience. Then Karen asks, and I think maybe that's going to be our next slide, how do you make a connection from lead to an applicant? What stages do the candidates go through? But I think you explain that later in the presentation, no?
No.
When we show traffic versus...
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll do that there, because it's more logical there. And then there's a question from Tatiana, who's going to pay, the recruiter or the candidate? Please explain.
Who is going to pay? I'm not really sure.
I think,
what do you mean?
In any case, Tatiana, in most countries, it's not legal to ask candidates to pay during the recruitment process. So they are not paying. So it's the advertiser who's paying, and either the advertising is the company or the recruitment company, which is in between. But never ever, as far as I'm concerned, as we are aware, the candidate is paying. There's a question from Cassandra, what's the minimum cost to run an ad on TikTok?
We'll come back to that
We'll
later.
come back to that also. Simon is asking whether we have impression or CTR, which is click-through numbers. Simon, we have those obviously, but we didn't want to confuse people too much. And the question from Sophie is, I make paid 6 times 26.13 for this ad. Yes, they did for media. Yeah. Right? That is, so just the advertising fee. So the media cost was indeed 6 times 26. Question from Elke. Do you also test an ad with a video where a person is talking, so a more organic look? Because these examples are clearly ads. Yeah. No, we're not doing that. Why? Because if you see the best practices of TikTok for advertisements,
then they don't mention that, talking heads. And if you also look at the organic videos on TikTok, on the profiles, etc., then you don't really see people talking. It's always a funny, a funny video.
Yeah.
So you don't want to okay, you want to pop out with your advertisement, but you don't want to make it really clear that it's advertisement, because you want people to look at it like it's a video, a normal video.
Yeah. But having said that, I think what you really want to avoid is to basically disguise the fact that what your ad actually is. Stephanie will come back to that in a second also, because you want people who click on it, right? When they click, they need to be aware that they're clicking on an ad for a vacancy, and then they want more information. Because if you trick people into clicking onto something, first of all, we know Facebook is very, very sensitive to this, but you will be kind of penalized and your ad will be shown to less people. But also the quality of your clicks is going down dramatically. And you want the people who click on it to be very much aware that they are clicking on something to apply or to learn more about a vacancy.
Mm-hmm.
So we would strongly advise against kind of using clickbait or using funny videos or showing a nice picture of a dog just to make people click to your advertising, because that's going to basically hurt you in the short term, but also in the long term, because it's going to reflect badly on your account, and you're going to draw that with you for a long time. Okay. Question from Charlotte. Was this in the feeds ad? In the feed? Yeah.
Yes, it was in the feeds. Yes.
Okay. Question from Sam. What about roles like IT developers or React developers, software engineers across EMEA?
Well, interesting question. We've not done experiments with that. We did it on Facebook and Instagram, and we did see some nice results coming in. But on TikTok, we've not done yet those function titles.
No. Question from Sophie, and I think it's, again, thank you very much for those questions. That's the last I'm going to thank you. I see TikTok films on Facebook and Pinterest. Are they organically shared, or is this extra advertisement?
On Facebook and Pinterest. Well, good question, but I assume it's organic.
I think it's organic, yeah, because, I mean,
TikTok is another platform than Facebook and Instagram.
Exactly.
The Facebook, well, actually, it's now Meta. Is Facebook, is Instagram, is Messenger, is Audience Network, and is WhatsApp. But TikTok itself is a really other platform.
It's a Chinese platform, by the way. So there's no interaction. There's no. And we would also strongly advise that if you plan to advertise both on TikTok and Facebook, that you kind of separate those, because you need different kind of visuals and it's a different format. But Stephanie's going to come back to that a bit later. Okay, there's a question from Lucas about targeting, but that's going to be the next part of the presentation. So I'm going to park that. And what's the difference between the Reels and the TikTok videos for recruiting? I'm not sure if I get that. What's the difference with the Reels and the TikTok videos for recruiting? They have the same length of videos with music. So I think you're referring to how organic versus advertising. And as Stephanie explained, we are a big fan of using advertising, also because it will give you the possibility to do targeting. Okay, Reels, Instagram. Yes, okay, Simon, I get that. That's a whole different ballgame, right? That's a different webinar. Please go and look in the Academy to our webinar on Facebook and Instagram. So that's a different ballgame.
All right.
Okay. And then Catherine is asking, why not make a profile for free and make a reel, or in this case, I guess, a TikTok video? The applicant can contact me in person. I think the number one reason, Catherine, is because organically, you're never going to be able to target your audience. And secondly, unless you're extremely popular, funny, or whatever, very, very few people will see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
I will continue then. Now, how do you set up a campaign? What are the elements of a campaign, and what are our first learnings? First of all, the campaign is divided into different components, and the main level is, of course, a campaign level, where you have to select your objective. I will come back to that later. Then underneath the campaign, you have ad groups. There you have to select your targeting, your budget. I will come back to that later, and the bidding as well. And then underneath your ad group level, you have your advertisement itself. And on TikTok, well, it's only video. So you have to upload a video. But I also want to say that if you have pictures, then TikTok has a sort of studio in Ads Manager where you can easily make your own videos itself, which is really customer friendly. It's basically for the people who already done recruitment on Facebook and Instagram, it's basically more or less the same concerning the setup, concerning the components of a campaign. All right, now let's dig a bit
Let's dig a bit deeper.
a bit deeper into all those components. First of all, the objective. This is a print screen from the TikTok advertising.
Can you maybe go one step before, because there's
Yes.
an interesting question from Kelly, who's asking, is it already easy to make a professional TikTok profile? I know there were lots of restrictions in Belgium.
Now it's really easy, I must say. Yeah.
I mean, maybe just to kind of put some history on that, until a couple of months ago, it was quite difficult to advertise on TikTok because we were looking at it for a while. You had to spend, I think, minimum $6,000 per ad because they were really focusing on big brands, and they did make indeed quite difficult for you to open an account. Those things have now been lifted. What I think what Stephanie said in the beginning is, you can see it's early days for TikTok, but they are copying the Facebook approach. They're not yet there. They're not yet as far as Facebook. So they are also learning on how to do this, how to manage their customers, and how to manage advertising. But it's a lot easier than it was 6 months ago.
Yes. All right. These are all the advertising objectives which you can choose from. And this is just a print screen from the TikTok advertising platform itself. You see that it's also more or less the same as Facebook and Instagram. It's perhaps a bit less objectives. And what we've done is we experimented with traffic and lead generation, so in the consideration phase. And I just want to show you some results about that. So let's just explain it a bit more. So traffic is when people see your ad, they click on it, and they land on your vacancy page. It's to push as much as people to your vacancy page. With lead generation, you already collecting leads on the TikTok platform itself. So once they click on your video, on your advertisement, then they have to fill in a form, but it stays on TikTok. And then that information is sent back to the TikTok advertising platform, where you can download, of course, all the leads that are coming in. But this is an important thing to know. All right. Now, we see that lead generation is working best for now. We're not yet experimenting with conversions, which I think we should do because that is our go-to goal on Facebook. But I just want to share with you an experiment where we experimented with traffic and lead generation. So we had, to be very clear, we had the same advertisement, we had the same target audience, but a different objective for that campaign. And once we saw the results, we saw that traffic, we've spent 165 euros and we had 0 applicants, which is of course not really good. But then we at the same time, we did a lead generation campaign, and there we had 18 applicants. But let's be very clear, with lead generation, we had 41 leads, and then we've sent them an email with the type form, which they had to fill in, and then an application has taken place. So there are some more steps which you need to set up to get to an applicant, but we saw that we had lots of applicants, and the cost per application was 10 euros, which is really good to have on social media.
Can I maybe add on that?
Yes.
Because I think it's very important that we're clear on terminology here, right? Because I know some people will then say, the moment you have an email, you have an applicant. That's really not our philosophy. Our philosophy is that we need a bit more background information, enough to qualify a candidate. And that could be some questions we ask on language skills, on degree, or on the studies they did. Only then do we consider somebody an applicant. And I know that, sometimes it's easy to say, well, I've had 18 people or I had 40 people applying to my vacancy because I have 40 emails. That's not what we think is right. And therefore, we're only considering something an applicant once they've asked some key questions, which allows us or the customer to qualify candidates so they can know whether that candidate is good enough for them to continue with. And that's what Stephanie was also referring to on the earlier question. That's where we saw that some of our customers, boutique, I think it was,
Yes.
86% of candidates were approved to go to the next round. In order to give that approval, you need data. To have that data, you need a qualified applicant. And that's why we always make a very big difference between leads, which is easy. That's just an email, and applicants, which is difficult. That's kind of, that's where you need the right software, that you need the right approach and the right process to get there. Okay. Good question from Simon. Does TikTok boost the lead generation campaigns because you stay on their app?
Good question. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is.
I think it is a bit chicken and egg, Simon. I think that obviously a bit like Facebook, or that's at least our understanding, because we are looking at the algorithm, is that like the Facebook algorithm, the TikTok algorithm will favor advertising where there's engagement, right? And of course, if people don't click or nothing happens afterwards, TikTok will measure that, especially if you have the pixel installed, and that might be the reason why they do that. Again, you could have a different discussion on, will they look at the objective of a campaign and favor that, but I think that's going to take us too far for now. Question from Elke. Why do you need to send them an email if the lead gen is still in their app for qualifying them? Yes, Elke, sorry, I think that's what I was just explaining. We think it's important to qualify applicants to make sure that you actually have good quality applicants for our customers. Question from Margot, is retargeting possible? I'm not sure if we're coming back to that.
We're coming back to that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
All right. So once you've defined your objective, you have to define your target audience. Let's go a bit more into detail about that. So what can you actually choose concerning targeting in TikTok Ads Manager? The first one are demographics. You can target locations, but you can only target country-based. So if you're looking for someone in, let's say, London, then you have to target the whole of the UK. Yeah, it's a bit pity. I'm sure they're still working on that, or I hope they're still working on that. But, well, we're based in Belgium, so we have to target the whole country of Belgium when we set up an advertisement. You can select age ranges, you can select genders as well, which we don't really recommend because we're in recruiting, of course. And then you can also select languages. It is important to know that you're only allowed to select the languages which people speak in your country. So for example, in Belgium, you can make advertisement in Dutch, German, French, and English. But you can't make an advertisement in Spanish. If you're looking for Spanish people, unfortunately, you have to do it in English. It's a restriction that TikTok is giving for every country separately. Next to the demographics, you can choose from lots of interests. I will come back to that later, a bit more into detail. And then, of course, data. We already said that you have to install the TikTok Pixel, which will gather lots of data, which you can use to build audiences, etc., and to track everything what people do when they see your ad. But this is important also to build audiences. I will come back to that later. Now, I just want to show you about the interests.
Can you just
yes.
one thing, because I don't think we're talking about location later on.
Yeah.
There's a question from Karen saying, luckily Belgium is not that big.
Yeah.
You're right, Karen. But we have customers in about 12 different other countries in Europe, some of them which are big. So we have some tips on tricks on how to deal with that, but it gets a problem also for us.
Yes.
Good.
All right. So I just want to show you this really quickly, this video again. It's from Boutique Agency, and they were looking for promo girls, informants. Let's just really show you. Okay. So it was really short and snappy, and they were looking for students. And I want to share with you that if you type in student as an interest, then you get lots of suggestions from TikTok itself. You see student communities, international students. So this is all data that TikTok gathers itself. If people are interested in videos about student loans, about student lives, about student discounts, then you can choose that interest, and then you know, or you can assume that you're targeting students. So this is really interesting because TikTok also has lots of data of their users, of course, which you can use to target your vacancy on. What I also want to share with you is there is an interest on TikTok, which is called recruitment and job searching. This is, of course, really interesting because we're assuming that there are other companies that are doing vacancy ads, and if people on TikTok have already show interaction with some videos about recruitment and job ads and job searching, then you can target them with selecting that type of interest.
This question from Karen on is targeting on interests based on the kind of video users watch.
Yeah.
Because you don't really fill out a profile as a user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's based on what users do on the TikTok platform itself. Yeah.
Yeah. And a follow-up question from Simon. So the targeting is based on the tags the creators place on their videos. No, Simon, it's not. I mean, again, maybe just referring back to the Facebook algorithm, the targeting on Facebook is also not based on what consumers are saying, but on what they are doing. And that's really the strength of these media or these targeting possibilities. So this is basically on the behavior that they're showing either on Facebook or on TikTok. What kind of videos are they watching? What kind of content are they using or maybe even producing? And this is not only based on the tags, but TikTok has a massive algorithm working on that. And it's really based on the behavior of people on TikTok. And that's also maybe why it's not yet as strong as the Facebook algorithm, because Facebook will also have a lot of tracking data from WhatsApp, from other apps, from other sites that you visit where the Facebook Pixel is installed, which is, as Stephanie said, a lot more powerful than the TikTok Pixel. But that strength will come, and that will only accelerate.
Yes. All right. Now, next to selecting interests, you can also choose custom audiences. What is a custom audience? It's actually, well, let me show you an example. For example, if you have installed the TikTok Pixel on your website, then you can target all those people that visited your website. Now, it is important to know that it's not a specific page that you can select on Facebook and Instagram. Like Mark already said, the Facebook Pixel is much more elaborated, it's more powerful, but I'm sure TikTok will be as powerful as Facebook in a few months, few years. So you can target the people that visited already your website, but not a specific page. There is an option where you can upload a list of people. Let's say, for example, that you have minimum 1,000 people, I must admit. If you have 1,000 best customers, for example, then you can upload that and then you can target them. But there is a but, because TikTok gives you the option to do that. But actually, they're saying that they're still currently testing on matching those people. So, for example, if you have a list with first name, last name, email, and phone, there you can't use them. They're still matching, and they're testing with matching all those variables to the right person. So we say that uploading a customer list is not available in Belgium. You can only use people who visited your website as a custom audience.
So there's a point from Catherine on GDPR. I understand your point, Catherine, but it's not entirely correct in the sense that, for instance, when you do this in Facebook, the data will be rehashed. You will not be able to actually kind of use that that or use that information to do something else. So I think there's a big debate on that, which probably was not the reason for today. But we just want to kind of point out the differences between those people who know Facebook and the opportunities for custom audiences versus TikTok.
All right. Now, once you've defined your custom audience, you can also make lookalike audiences. For the people that don't know what a lookalike audience is, it's actually an audience that is based on the behaviors and the interests of your custom audience, but it's just to broaden your audience, to reach more people. You can choose for a lookalike that is really like your custom audience, which is really narrow, but you can also choose for a broad lookalike audience, which is really, really broad. But of course, then the algorithm will be a bit, more less strict to combine all the common behaviors and the common interests. But there is an option to make lookalike audiences in TikTok.
And maybe before you go to the budget or to the question on the slide, there's a question from Dan on saying, are you using TikTok more now because Facebook has made their targeting harder by removing functions, age and gender in employment ads? And you can also use very broad interests.
Yes. Well, we've done a webinar about special ads category campaigns on Facebook. So I think we should still upload it in the Academy, but we will do it this afternoon. So you can have a look at it over there, because it will take us a bit too far, I guess.
I mean, just to point that out, I think, yes, there are some big changes on Facebook. We have indeed on the 7th of December, which was a bit of D-Day for Facebook because they changed their whole algorithm for employment ads. We are still seeing successful campaigns after the 7th of December. The tricks and reasons for that are in the webinar. But we are still firm and strong believers in Facebook or Meta as a platform. And we see TikTok as an addition to that until TikTok grows up with their targeting possibilities, because they're nowhere near as good as they are on Facebook.
Yes, indeed. All right. Now, how much budget do you need to provide to run advertisement on TikTok? The big question. Well, you have to have at least minimum 20 euros a day. This is 20 euros per day on an ad group level. You can also set up a cost cap on the campaign level, but that needs to be minimum 50 euros. So the minimum budget that you need to provide for TikTok is 20 euros, but then you only have one video, one targeting, etc. You can also introduce a cost cap on the leads level. So for example, if you're doing lead generation campaigns like we do now on TikTok, then you can say like, okay, I want my leads to cost maximum 15 euros. You can do that, but we don't really recommend that, because you want to give the algorithm as much space needed to get as much as applicants, as much as leads that the algorithm can find. If you're using a cost cap on campaign level, on ad set level, and on lead level, I'm sure the algorithm wouldn't work that well if you're just letting it free. All right. Then I want to share some tips and tricks for the videos that you have to make to do recruitment campaigns on TikTok. First of all, the videos need to be vertical. So it's also like stories on Instagram or on Facebook. It is a vertical video. These are the aspect ratios which you need to keep in mind if you're using pictures or if you're using real videos of your company. The video needs to be 5 till 15 seconds, which is really, really short. And of course, the first seconds are the most important one, because people are scrolling on TikTok and you have to pop out immediately to attract the right people. So what we recommend is to be really specific in your copy. Because if you're looking for here, they were looking, sorry that it's in Flemish for the people that are not speaking Flemish, but here they were looking for an experienced carrossier. I don't know what's the name in English.
It's somebody who makes a body shopper, the body, doing the body work on cars.
Yes, indeed. So we were looking for an experienced person, and it was the first shot of our video. So it needs to be really clear that people that are not experienced in that type of job, that they scroll further. Also, you're not really seeing it well, but you can add some description on your video. And here it says wanted carrossier in Antwerp. So we were looking for someone in Antwerp because, like we already said, you can only target country-based and not specific city-based. Let's be really clear at the beginning of the video, because of course you don't want to have clicks or leads from people that are working, let's say 200 kilometers of your company. There, you need to be clear in the beginning for which company, what you are looking for, the really requirements that you need for your job function, and then the location as well. All right.
Okay.
Some more questions?
Question is, are you tied to a fixed period or can you stop whenever you want?
You can stop whenever you want. You can choose for a daily budget or a lifetime budget. We recommend a daily budget because then you have a bit more freedom yourself to stop and to actually pause campaigns. But you can stop the campaign whenever you want.
Yeah. And then there's a question from Simon on how do we do the follow-up with emails. We basically, our software does that, Simon. So we basically integrate that into our software to do the follow-up. And Karim, yes, the recording will be sent to you automatically, don't worry.
All right.
Question from Anna, how long would you suggest to have a campaign online on TikTok?
Good question. Now we are testing with 150 euros for a campaign as a whole. And if you're calculating 20 euros a day, then it's, let's say, I'm not really good at calculating a week. But if you're setting up, and that is something that we also see, if you're setting up a daily budget of 20 euros, TikTok will not spend the entire budget. So it will always be, I don't know, 10 euros or 15 euros, but it will never be 20, which is also a good thing, of course. So yeah, I can't really recommend something. We're still experimenting with it, but it's a bit the same as for Facebook and Instagram. If you find your hire, if you find the right person after 2 weeks, then of course you can stop. But if it's a really difficult job function, or I don't know, really difficult to find someone, then of course your campaign will run longer.
Exactly. I think we're now, let's move on.
Okay.
We could come back to those questions later. Move on.
Okay, all right. So actually we're nearly to the end of our webinar. We want to say that there is still a long way to go. I mean, we're still experimenting with different job functions, with different formats of videos, different objectives. But we're actually really happy with the first results that are coming in on TikTok. So we're definitely going to experiment more with it. Maybe we're going to do another webinar about that when we have more learnings. And we're also working on to get it into our software,
yes.
Because we've built a recruitment software so everyone can set up easily a recruitment campaign on social media. Now it's Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, but we're working on it to get it also for TikTok done. Yes,
and maybe just to kind of, again, already our premium customers can use TikTok in our software. We're integrating it for everybody in the next couple of weeks. But maybe to kind of explain to you what our software does, it will make it very easy for you, even if you have no experience whatsoever on recruitment, even if you don't have a Facebook account or a Meta account, to still publish your campaigns quickly. And I'll very briefly, just 1 minute, will show you how this actually works, because I'll also show you the Academy.
Yes.
You should see my screen now.
Yes,
that's working. So here's the dashboard where you can actually track everything, what's happening. Let's assume you're looking for a barista for a company called Central Park. You will get a checklist on everything that you need to do. We will help you to build your advertising. So for here, you can upload pictures, you can add the text here, you can add your logo. You can also actually change the format of your campaign, depending on what format you want to publish, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. But also, we will also make it very easy to test different visuals, to an A/B test of different visuals. And again, it's as easy as clicking on here, changing the text, uploading your logo, uploading your image. So everything to set up your campaign is here. You can look and then define your targeting. This one, obviously, you would want to look in New York for this function. You can then choose from our data set. And that's important because Stephanie already talked about data. You can actually use all our data on, for instance, hospitality. So you will target people with working in hospitality function. You can design your landing page within our software. And then very important, you'll also be able to manage the candidates coming in, whether it's through a lead form or through a different approach. You can actually manage your candidates. You can look at your candidates in detail to know more of their background. And then once you know what you want to do with your candidates, you can move them around for the relevant category. So you have a nice and visual overview of your candidates. But on top of that, this will also then steer the software into spending the budget on the campaigns that are most successful. All of that you can also follow within the social media tab here. This campaign is not yet live, but once it goes live, you can see all the data in your campaign. And what's important is to really understand you don't need any marketing experience. You don't need to install a pixel. All the complicated things we explained till now, you could still do on your own if you would want that. But if you want an easy one-stop solution, you can just use our software to do that. And by the way, I urge you, because there's a 2-week free trial, once you register, I think Stephanie already shared that in the chat. If you click here on the bottom left, the Academy, that's where you'll be able to kind of find your free content on webinars, formulas, checklists, anything you want to go live with your own recruitment campaign.
Yes.
Good. So far for the shameless plug of self-promotion for our fantastic software. So back to you, Stephanie.
Yes, all right. I'm going to really quickly share my screen again, but we've come to the end. So if you still have some questions, we're happy to answer them right now. If there are some questions.
There's a question from Karen. Can we link up with the company's ATS? At the moment, no, Karen. But what happens is that companies, our customers actually pre-select the candidates and do the first screening in our software, and then they export them to their own ATS. But it's very important that we actually control the full loop, so we know what candidates you approve, which candidates you don't approve. Because as I mentioned, we also use that to optimize campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
But we have big corporate customers like NG, like Pizza Hut, and they don't have an issue with the connection. So it's not a big problem. I see there's somebody in a question tab who asked a question. Oh, sorry,
No,
that's
sorry.
you.
That was me doing the wrong thing.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's see. Jan is typing. Luna is typing. Or they're attempting to ask a question.
If you still have some questions in the next couple of days when you rewatch the recordings, for example, or if you download a white paper or etc., you can always email us or send us a message on LinkedIn. We're really happy to help you concerning online recruitment.
Well said, Stephanie.
Yes.
Inspiring words.
All right. Maybe, Mark, you can also send the demo link from
Yes.
you. So
Okay.
if you're willing to have a deeper look into our software, or if you have questions concerning our pricing of our software, or if you just want to talk to Mark, then you can always book an online meeting with him.
Yes, so there, I just checked my link, so please plug it in, and then looking forward to have a chat.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Maybe one more poll.
One more poll,
to
yes.
end.
To end,
Yes.
because everyone is saying it's a great webinar. If you're really serious about that, you can also actually vote. I'll just, and let us know how good you think it was, because that helps us to also improve the webinars for the future.
Yes. You will also receive an email from us with the recordings.
All right, let's just have a look at the results here. Some high scores. Good, I like that.
Nice.
Good.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And I hope to see you again in one of our next webinars. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.